Hello and welcome to this week's live event. Today we're talking about moving beyond our current story, and this is specifically going to be posted on Facebook in my group, Women Healing from Emotional Abuse with Power, Passion, and Pleasure. And also, for those of you listening later on, my name is Ailsa Kepi. I'm a pleasure and somatic coach. I work particularly with trauma and abuse and finding a way back into our bodies, finding a way to experience life's joy through actually learning to feel again. So this week, as I said, all of us start off with a story. And often, if we've been victim of abuse, we have a particular story and we tell it the same way over and over again. And quite often, this story that we tell is from our place of victimhood. And I'm not really saying this is a horrible thing at the beginning, because we do have to actually come to the realization that we have been abused or we have been victimized. And often, this is really the first step in our healing process, is actually acknowledging where we are and what's happening to us or happened to us in the past. But like I quoted Salman Rushdie for this video, I'm just going to read it out again because I really was taken by this. That those who do not have power over the story that dominates their lives, as in the power to retell it, the power to rethink it, to deconstruct it, to joke about it, and change it as times change, truly are powerless, because they cannot think new thoughts. And I would add, they cannot feel new feelings either. And so if we're living by that story of, we've been abused and we're a victim, and we can't move beyond or transform that story to something new, we will continue to feel and think and believe and stay stuck in the same story, in the same patterns. And this is something that comes up with many women that I talk to. I offer calls to women to discuss and clarify where they're at right now. And many times the abuse and the trauma is something that has come up over and over and over again in their lives in different ways with different people. And so, until we learn to transform this story, we really are stuck. And so this is, again, how do we move beyond this story? So let me just go to my notes. I want to make sure that I cover things that I wanted to cover. So yeah, one thing I was really wanting to clarify too. Many women ask, what is the journey like that you take us on? The journey that you offer a coaching package, or you offer sessions, or you offer a course, or whatever the journey is. What is that journey? And how do we transform? And what I would say is that we all have our own story, and so it's not so much about anyone telling you this is the story that you need to do, and if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to heal, because we all have our own unique story. We all have our own unique gifts and qualities that are hidden underneath what happens to us in our lives as well. And so for anyone to come in, me included, as a coach or therapist or anything, to come in and say, here's what I think your story is, and here's how you need to fix it, is definitely not going to have that transformational effect. And if many of you have been in talk therapy or been in groups where it's like, here's the victim, here's how you, deal with a narcissist, or here's how you do this, and giving you protocols to follow, but never actually touching in on who you are as a person and what is your unique qualities, what is your unique story, and how do we alchemize that. If they're not going there, it's going to be very difficult to have any long-lasting effect or healing. So this is something that I wanted to, emphasize, is that the journey towards healing is not something that's super comfortable. It's not something we can take in our head. It's not going to come from understanding narcissists or understanding how we've been abused, although all of that is helpful information. transformation and healing and moving beyond our story will require us to go deeper than that. And it will require us to have a journey that's not easy or comfortable necessarily, but is something that we actually have to do. Fascinating, arduous, magical, difficult, rewarding, and very personal. These are words that I would put to this type of transformational process. And, some of those are really awesome words, and some of them arduous, things like that, will be challenging. And if you talk to any of my clients, some of their testimonials will show that, they've been through the dark night, or, I found myself in a dark wood, as Dante would say in the original. We've all, as humankind, had this like dark place when we get there. And so finding our way through the wood is a way that used to be called. I think in our culture we've gotten used to instant fixes, and if we have a process, if we have a step 1, step 2, step 3, 5 easy steps to having a great relationship, sure, that can work. But do you have have you actually transformed who you are so that you show up as your real unwounded self, so that you can have a different experience? So, alchemy is a word that I would put to this. Transformation is a word I would put to this. And, connecting with our inner child. A lot of you have probably heard about the idea that we have an inner child. This is just, a way of working with this part of ourselves that has been wounded or lost or abandoned, or all of these things that we put on and we say, well, let's connect with our inner child. But, once we find this connection to our inner child, this is where our creativity comes from. And this is where we become, you might not be an artist, but you want to create your life. And if you want to create your life, you are creative. And if you are creative, you're having some power in creating what you want. And so, it is a creative process. And this does come from knowing our inner child. This was said by Julia Cameron in Vein of Gold. She was the writer of The Artist's Way as well. Some of you may have done that process. I've found you, but you've been beaten, battered, starved, malnourished, neglected, discounted, and disowned. I must restore you to health so we can have our adventures. This is something you could say, you could call out to your inner child. And in my program with women, I actually have part of the process is really connecting in this way and calling our inner child back to us. Hey, let's have an exciting adventure. I know you've been wounded, you've been abandoned, you've been neglected, you've been hurt, but let's find this relationship and let's go from here, because this is a key to finding out your inner connection to yourself. And really, when we're looking for intimacy, I do quite strongly feel that, although we can heal in relationships, and I've done a video or two on that, we need this relationship to ourselves, to our body. Finding a way to relationship with our inner child is another way to do that. And the power of play. And, that it can be, we can say, oh, this is a lot of work. But it's actually kind of a playful work, and we may not always give credence to that kind of work, but we're not going to get there by writing out a list or talking about it anymore or understanding anymore up here. We're going to transform by playing, by being open to this child that's within us. We actually have to, our adult sort of understands a wound, but our creative artist, inner creative child actually can heal it. There's a difference there. I know most of the women in this group probably understand a lot of where they're at, or they wouldn't be in this group. They wouldn't have looked for a group. But to really change anything, we've got to make this connection with the more playful, more child side of ourselves. So transformation is a doing process. It's not an understanding process up here. And I would say that healing is a feeling process, and exactly why I call my program The Body Leads the Way, because this is a vessel that we have that helps us feel things, and I'm always in such gratitude that I have a body, and that I get to actually feel all the things that my body can feel. And I always am, fascinated by all the different feelings that we can evoke, that we can experience, and that we can choose to ask for. That might even be something you've never thought about before. We have this idea that insights and healing have to come through our intellect, but we seek to understand our wounds intellectually and alleviate them through understanding. And this actually, in our mechanistic culture that goes with rational thinking as the highest form of thinking, doesn't understand that we attempt to think our way into right actions rather than act our way into right thinking. And so feeling our body and learning the somatic way of integrating trauma and working with healing is actually a way that we can transform and heal on a completely other level. And, really these words like alchemical and transformative are absolutely the words that I would use for this process. Another way to describe like moving beyond our current story is withdrawing back into ourself, finding our energy, pulling it back into our center where we get to access it and get to find out what our dreams and goals are. Many of the women that I speak to have lost this connection to themselves, and therefore, if you don't know what you want, it's going to be really difficult to move anywhere or have any choice. If you had a choice, what would you choose? Do you even know how to answer that? These are questions that need to be asked and need to be nurtured and need to be worked with, possibly with a mentor, with a guide that can help you find this connection. Questions like, who am I? What do I love? In what direction do I choose to reach out? These are questions that, are deep questions, and the kind of things that I explore with my clients in order to come to this kind of connection with ourselves. So today I wanted to offer you just a little exercise to think about as far as this. Obviously, if you're interested in working with me more in depth and actually, working on this transformational process, this is something that is a process I can help you through, absolutely. And you can look up The Body Leads the Way on my website, pleasureforhealth.com. Have a look, book a call, let's talk. But right now, I want to offer you just a couple of things to think about. So one is the idea that we have been not pulling ourselves into our core, and we've been extending our energy outwards to people around us. And when we've been in emotional abusive relationships, quite often the other person or people have been pulling our energy from us, and we end up exhausted from this process. So I want you to make a list of all the ways that your batteries have been drained. And I want you to do this not in the way of beating yourself up about it. Please don't just sit there and go, oh my gosh, I've been so stupid. This is just for you to think about, because then we're going to do something else with this list. But just jot down, like, even from way back, like if you were always the person that gave up playing in the playground so that you could help the little girl that was crying over on the side, and you went and spent your time with them rather than playing what you wanted to play. Just things like that, even. I want you to think back all the things that, or, write 10 things where you drained your batteries helping other people. And again, I'm not dissing helping people, but let's just write down some things where we've helped other people. And then what I want you to do is just notice some things that you have been really good at, that you've done. So a lot of times women that I work with, and one reason I particularly love working with women that have been through abuse and trauma is that, we have so many gifts. So let's look at that. So we're going to also then write up a shadow resume of things that you have done and accomplished in your life, maybe for other people. So far, maybe it's always been for other people. But let's say you know how to pacify and make things work in the house. So you know how to cook a meal make everyone happy and have an enjoyable time. Maybe you're good at that. I want you to write that down in your resume as one of your skills. And, it may not be working for you right now in your life if you're in a relationship where you're not being appreciated. But that's why we're calling it a shadow resume. I want you just to be aware of what you're doing. So write down some of your skills that you'd put in your shadow resume. You always have the ability to sense who's unhappy in the room, and you know how to help make them feel better. This is something that a lot of us are really good at. We have really good intuition. We know how to go and make people feel good. If that's one of your skills, write it on your shadow resume. And a lot of times when we stay stuck in our story, these shadow gifts, if you will, are getting used for everyone else and not being appreciated or acknowledged or validated, even by ourselves. So we don't even realize we're doing this. So if you can make a couple of ideas of things that you are good at and go, wow, I really have that skill. I can do that. I can, get up in the morning with only 2 hours sleep. I can clean the house, go to work, look after the kids, cook dinner. Hey, you could do all that stuff. That's, put down I'm Wonder Woman on your shadow resume. And then, we can work with that. That's something that you can start seeing. Hey, I have these skills. And we can start bringing the shadow into the light. When we do that, we can start transforming our story from being, poor me, I have to get up every day and do all this stuff, to, wow, I really do a lot of things here. Here's the skills and gifts that I could be bringing to myself and to people that would appreciate me, or to the world in a different way, that I am kind of draining my batteries by giving to people that either don't appreciate or don't understand, or it's draining me. So these kind of activities go together. It's a really quick idea, not fully fledged out, but see how that works for you. Definitely post some things under the video, comment, tell us how it's going. Tell us what you found out, what was one of your skills that you didn't know you had. And this can be the beginning of a transformational process. If you're interested in working with me through, in depth through all of these kinds of somatic exercises, story, archetypes, myths, creative process, storyline, all of these things are things that I use. Play. I used to be in the circus, for those of you who didn't know. So I have a lot of experience with doing some creative play type exercises. If you're interested in working with me, reach out. You can book a call, www.ailsakeppie, so it's AILSAKEPPIE.com/apply, APPLY, and that will take you directly to my calendar. I offer free calls for 1 hour. We're going to get clarity on what is going on for you. What is your current story that you want to change? And what are some of these qualities that you've been hiding, that have been in the shadows, that you want to bring out and maybe offer to the world, to other people, to your kids, to your community, to your friends? What are those, and how can we get you from there to there? And let's talk. So I hope this has been helpful today. Have some fun with it. Post some comments. Let me know how it's going. And we'll talk to you soon.